guardianship, business planning, and wealth preservation. They believe that planning for the future should not be left until the future. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or in retirement, your life is always changing. Comprehensive estate planning can protect you and your loved ones from the unexpected. When you experience a significant life cycle event or life change, it is a good time to have your estate planning reviewed. Contact their office today at 954-839-8705.
And we are back with the award-winning now, Steve-O and Renee. We just won the New Times Best AM Radio Personalities. Pretty proud of that. We beat out some really big people. Well, we have another great show with us. You just watched a rerun from last month, and now we've got live in studio. So if you want to call us, if you got an estate planning question, and I do because we've had something happen in the family, but our phone number here is 888-565-1470. That's 888-565-1470. If you have a question about a will, how about maybe estate planning? If you have a question about a will, this is the greatest show to call. Let me introduce you to David Schulman. He's a senior partner at Ginsber and Schulman. They're located on Las Olas. But don't you have an office in Boca, too?
We also have an office in Boca on Glades at one Boca place.
So, but listen, you know what? Even if you've already got your will done, maybe you might want to call David up and make sure, come in for a second opinion, because we just learned a lot of new things because we had a relative who died. And, boy, I tell you what, I feel sorry for you, especially when there's a lot of people that are involved in the will.
It's a lot of work, but
you got to have it.
You got to have it. It's worse when you don't have it.
So we're going to talk about estate planning today, and I just learned something new because there was something in the will that we had that David told me about, and it was basically said if people are disputing the will or arguing about the will, that person could be eliminated.
Yes, that is called a no contest clause, which is invalid in Florida. This person may have been from New York or some other state when they did the will, where there are no contest clauses, but they're invalid and unenforceable in Florida.
Interesting, because the person who passed away lives here in Florida, but one of the executors lives in New York.
But it's Florida law. Because the person died in Florida, because their estate is being administered in Florida and their will is being probated in Florida, then Florida law applies. So that no contest clause is invalid and unenforceable.
Well, first of all, tell everybody about your firm, because you've been doing this for a while.
We have. My name is, like you said, my name is David Schulman. I am an estate planning, probate, guardianship, and elder law attorney. We're a two-person law firm. It's me and my partner, Jill Ginsberg. I'm board certified in wills, trusts, and estates, and my partner, Jill, is board certified in elder law. I handle mostly estate planning and probate administration. Jill does more of the Jill does more elder law and guardianship, along with probate administration, too.
Very special when you're certified specialist, because you can say that I specialize in this area because you have extra
That's true.
education in
there
that
are
area.
Something like 100,000 lawyers in Florida, and less than 5% are board certified in anything, whether admiralty or bankruptcy or whatever it is, but there are only a few hundred certified in wills, trusts, and estates.
And I want people to understand, because it sounds like, wow, that's expensive. He's board certified. Doesn't necessarily mean you have the highest rates in town.
No, we're not the most expensive.
More educated.
We're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive either.
I love that. So we're going to start off with a couple questions. Again, if you'd like to call today, you can call us right now at 888-565-1470. If you have a question for David about a will, I want to start off with some easy questions, because a lot of people don't even know what estate planning is, what's involved with estate planning. So tell us, first of all, about what is estate planning.
Very, very simple, but more complex. Estate planning is, the first is, while you're alive and while you're competent, you want to be able to have control of your own property. That next is if you become incapacitated, you want to be able to appoint someone to make both financial and healthcare decisions for you. Checkbook decisions, open your mail, pay your bills, run your household, all those things that you need to get done in your normal everyday life. And also, if you can't make healthcare decisions, you want to be able to appoint someone to make healthcare decisions for you, so the government doesn't come in and appoint a guardian. And the next part is after you pass away, you want to be able to give what you have to who you want, when you want, and how you want, and pay the least amount in taxes and court costs and attorney's fees as possible.
So it really pays to have someone who knows what they're doing, because, I mean, if you have a lot of assets, it's really important because, first of all, tax-wise, you don't want to leave a big tax burden on your family when you leave.
If you have significant estates, if you're talking about over $5 million, the estate tax is 40% at anything above that. It can really eat up. It can be very significant. But even if there's a lot of income tax planning too, as opposed to estate tax planning, because if the price you purchase is the basis is low and the price of the value is high, if you don't plan properly, you can leave your beneficiaries with a large income tax bill.
You can have two executors, is that right?
In Florida, they're called personal representative.
Oh, they are?
In New York, it's called executor. It's the same thing.
We're sure getting some New York influence off of this.
In Florida, it's personal representative, and yes, you can.
Okay, so now let's just say there's two executors.
Personal representatives.
Personal representatives. Do they both have access to the account after somebody passes away?
Generally, well, they have to be appointed first.
Okay.
That the decedent, the testator, nominates personal representatives in their will, and then they have to go to court and petition the court to be appointed personal representatives of the estate. So once they're appointed, then technically they do have access to the accounts. Now, many courts require what's known as a restricted depository account, meaning instead of unfettered access, they have to take everything there is and put it into an account that's restricted by the court, and they can't make distributions without court approval.
So there's a checking account that's paying bills. For example, maybe the person has a condo and they're in the middle of selling it, but there's still bills that have to be paid. So if both of these personal representatives are on the account, can one go to the bank and take the other one off without their permission?
They cannot do. If
Really?
they're both personal representatives, then if you want to get rid of one or the other, you have to go to court and fight it out.
Wow.
Has that happened?
Yes, it actually has. So, and it didn't make much sense to me how one of the executors could just go right to the bank, take the other person's name off.
No, that is definitely not right and not proper.
Okay, so there really is so much you need to know, and that's why you need a law firm like Ginsberg and Schulman.
And you need to, if you're a personal representative in Florida, you can't do it on your own, and you need to have an attorney represent you.
Right.
So the attorney has to go to court to ask for the person to be appointed, and often the attorney does a lot of the work on behalf of the personal representative.
Now, if you've got these two personal representatives, can one have more control than the other?
Possibly, but that would have to be worked out either in the will or with the court. It's generally not a good idea because it just complicates things.
Tell people again why they need an estate plan.
They need an estate plan because otherwise the state is going to dictate how their property goes. If you don't have an estate plan, you die intestate, then you can be like Prince, where all your money goes to your half siblings you had no relationship with, as opposed to friends and charities that you want to benefit.
Do you ever get clients who go, there's not enough assets, so we probably don't need a plan?
Sure.
And what do you tell them?
Well, I tell them, for some of them, for a small percent of them, it's actually true.
Okay.
That if you have very little money and you want everything to go to your spouse or your children, then the plan is probably going to be the same thing as what would have happened without it. But you still, if you have minor children, you still need a plan to appoint guardians for your minor children. You may not want them to have their money right away or when they're 18. You may want to stretch it out. You may want to benefit charities. You may want to appoint someone to make decisions for you. You still need to appoint a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate to make decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. So even if your assets are meager and they're just be going to the people they otherwise would have gone to, there's still some questions and some thoughts that need to go into it, or planning may be better than not planning.
I know there's someone who's sitting in their car right now listening going, yes, something isn't right about our will or something that their estate planning. And if you want to call us right now, call us at 888-565-1470 if you have a question for David. Now, what if a person, and this is kind of, we talked about this last time with Prince, what if you die and you don't have a will?
If you die and you don't have a will, that's known as intestacy or intestate. And there's the law in each state says where your property goes to based on who your family is.
What is it here in Florida?
Well, it depends if you're married and have kids or don't have kids. So there's all those different levels. If you're married and you don't have kids, it goes to 100% to your spouse.
Okay.
If you're married one day, it goes to your spouse. If you have kids, then it depends on whether or not the kids are the same kids from the spouse, or if they're kids from a previous relationship, or if the spouse has other kids from a previous relationship. And if that's the case, it's 50-50. 50%.
Does the state get any of that at all?
The state doesn't.
Okay.
But you may not like one of your kids, and you may not want any property to go to them, or you may want to cut them off or give them less. And if you don't plan, then you don't have any choice.
We have such a wide range of age demographics on this show. When should a person start their estate planning?
Well, every adult needs something. We have something for college students, for people who just turn 18. We do a basic set of documents. We do advanced directives. We do a power of attorney, a healthcare surrogate, and a living will, and maybe a simple will. Just because when you're 18, then your parents no longer have the ability to make decisions for you, so you have those documents in place. And then as people get older, things get more complex. If you're in your 20s, you're recently married, you have a baby, you just bought a house, you're starting to make some money. It's a good time to really get things started. And if you're older than that, then definitely even more so.
Well, let's get into the will. I know some people put in their will that if they're hospitalized, something happens to them, they don't want to be resuscitated. Is that right?
Right, that's a DNR.
Isn't that in the will?
It's not in the will. There's two different documents. There's what's known as a DNR, which was what the hospital gives you. There's also what's known as a living will, which is separate from your last will and testament.
Okay.
That says if you're in an end-stage condition, a persistent vegetative state, or a terminal state, then you don't want to be kept alive by machines. It's not necessarily at the very end, the DNR, more like the Terry Schiavo or the Kathleen.
But there's relatives who they want them to resuscitate him. So the hospital has to go, if it's a living will, the hospital has to go by that.
The hospital, if the doctor thinks that they can save you, and there's a reasonable chance that they can save you, they're going to save you.
Okay.
But if there's no reasonable medical probability of them saving you, then they're going to try it, and then they're going to hopefully follow the living will.
So I'm listening to the show, and I'm going, you know what? I want to go in and talk to David. What kind of information will people need to bring with them?
Well,
if they want to create a will or a trust?
Well, we have a general intake questionnaire where we ask about their family. We need to know about your family and your assets. And the two big things, who your people are and what your stuff is. And that includes your real estate, your bank, your stocks, retirement accounts, insurance. We want to know about your children, whether they're adult or minors, or if they're married, if they have grandchildren, if they have special needs, if someone is autistic, or someone has these substance abuse problems, or a spendthrift. These are all, so you need to know about your family and about your belongings, so you can put the whole picture together and plan for you.
If you'd like to call David's office, it's 954-990-0896. That's 954-990-0896. Before we go to break, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Is money really the root to all evil?
No.
I have never seen what money can do to people. You see it all the time.
Yeah, it does cause problems in families, that's for sure. And if there's poor planning, it can cause more problems.
Okay. When we come back, let's talk about that planning, and let's talk about maybe what people can do to keep from all the fighting happening and do it up front. So we're going to be back. We're here with David Schulman of Ginsberg and Schulman. It's a great law firm. We'll be right back.
When was the last time your will was reviewed, or do you even have one? Do you know that without a will, the government decides how your property is distributed upon your death? Did you know that without proper estate planning, your children would receive every penny of their inheritance on their 18th birthday to use or lose without any guidance? The law offices of Ginsber and Schulman provide their clients with comprehensive estate planning, probate and trust administration, guardianship, business planning, and wealth preservation. They believe that planning for the future should not be left until the future. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or in retirement, your life is always changing. Comprehensive estate planning can protect you and your loved ones from the unexpected. When you experience a significant life cycle event or life change, it is a good time to have your estate planning reviewed. Contact their office today at 954-839-8705.
And we're back here. I'm here with senior partner.
Actually,
David
managing
Schulman.
partner.
Managing partner.
Jill's the senior partner.
She's the senior, but she's the chicken. She never wants to come in.
She'll come in eventually. I'll get her in.
Well, she actually has a different area of estate planning than she does.
It's overlapping. There's a lot of overlap. It's like a big Venn diagram where a lot of what we do overlaps. And
So she specializes in elder law.
elder law.
Gotcha. So I was just talking to David that there was a will that was done with this family member, but there was 9 people involved in the will, all there, and he had a house. TVs and microwaves, and all of a sudden everybody's grabbing.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I mean, can you set the will up that doesn't happen?
Well, generally,
or is it too minor, really?
So it really depends on what the property is. It's called tangible personal property. Sometimes we just give it to spouse and descendants. Sometimes what we can do is what's known as a separate list, or we'll list in the will if their things have actual value. You know, if they're baseball cards or jewelry or artwork, we want to give to specific people. You can give to them.
This was like piranhas. It was like I couldn't believe people were it was like a garage sale.
It was just everyday junk, right?
Well, it was like big screen TVs and silverware and furniture.
You know, the personal representative actually is responsible for setting things up so that's distributed equally and fairly.
Oh,
I mean, the will probably says it's divided among these people equally, and not just come and grab whatever you want. It's personal representatives.
Is it common to have 2 personal representatives, or is it more common to have 1?
Generally, it's 1. You can have but they really have to get along.
So yeah, how do they keep from fighting?
You know, I like.
Who makes the decision?
Well, hopefully they agree. If they don't, they have to go to court. Now, hopefully they also have one attorney between the 2 of them who can work that out. But sometimes, if they are separate personal representatives, separate attorneys, it's a mess.
Gotcha. Hey, we're here at the WWNN studios. If you've got an estate planning question, you can call us here at 888-565-1470. Now, there's all types of things that go on in a will. You know, this revocable living trust, I hear about this all the time. And, we got a call. So I'm going to take the first call. We're going to go to Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Thanks so much for taking my phone call. I listen to your show all the time. It's wonderful. And full of such great information. But I have a question. It just so happens this is something that hits very close to home for me. So my question is, in fact, I'm actually co-primary trustee with another family member that was designated also of my uncle's estate. Now, unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of an issue with her that she's being very uncooperative. Now, obviously we're following my uncle's wishes, which we have to do, but if there is an issue where 2 people that are handling the estate are having difficulties communicating or getting along with each other. Is it possible for one person to get the other person, I guess, relinquished from the duty of handling the estate?
Well, thank you for your question. Yes, there is, but you'd have to go to court to do so. That right now, do you have an attorney, or do both of you have the same attorney or separate attorneys?
It was it just so happens it is a great attorney. He is the one that
drafted the
my
will.
uncle's will. So we retained him just in case the will is contested by somebody who's a little disgruntled about his inheritance. So
right,
we have a lot of work to do, which I never even realized it was so involved of all the information you have to provide, since there's a little bit of money involved. But we don't have a separate attorney; it's the same attorney. So if there's an issue, I'll talk to him.
Right, so the first thing you should do is talk to your attorney and see if he can work it out between you and the other trustee or other co-personal representative. If you're really at an impasse where you can't work it out, and you really needed the other person removed, you'd probably have to sue to get them removed. And for that, this attorney would have a conflict and wouldn't be able to represent either one of you. So you would have to get your own attorney, and they would have to get their own attorney, and you would sue, and that's just a waste up. It should be a last resort, because all that does is waste time and money, and
it will waste money from the estate,
from the estate,
so from the trust.
So that's really a last resort. It's really only, and the judge isn't gonna remove someone only if they're non-communicative. They really have to be derelict in their duties, or really cross the line before the judge is going to remove them.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I went into the house a couple of weeks ago, and she set the alarm up, and the two of us are the only ones that have the keys. I live locally in Florida. She lives in another state, and she sent me an email telling me that the alarm company contacted her that the alarm was disarmed, which was not the case.
Yeah,
it was disarmed a few days before that. The only way for her to know that I was even there was if she set up a spy cam. There's no other way the alarm company confirmed that they did not contact us.
So who should she contact? Her attorney?
Yeah, the best thing to do is, if you have a joint attorney representing both of you, contact your attorney, talk to him, let him work out all the details, and that's probably the best way to handle it.
Okay, that was very helpful. Okay.
Hey, thank you, Andrea.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
A lot of people with problems out there.
I mean that's why sometimes I tell people I don't recommend that they nominate two people, because
the attorney kind of represents both of them.
The attorney represents both of them, and what happens is if there's a conflict between them, the attorney has their own conflict because the attorney has a duty to both of them, so the attorney can't represent either one of them anymore.
So you seem like the attorney would say it's really not a good idea to have two personal it's better to have one.
It depends on the circumstances. If they're your two children who get along well, and they're the only two beneficiaries of the estate, then that's fine. But if there's two people on opposite sides and there's a lot of property, I mean, I understand why people want to do it, but it really has to be the right people, because otherwise there's going to be a fight, and they waste everyone's time and money.
Now, does the person have to go? Like she's had two. If one of them wants to make changes, they can't do that on their own.
No,
and they have to go to the attorney for the estate.
Well,
is that right?
It's easiest to work through the attorney. The attorney is going to be impartial and knows what they're doing. Sometimes people, it's a lot of work to be a personal representative, and people are inundated and they don't know what they're supposed to do. So it's really good to rely upon your attorney.
Are there still two signatures on a check? Or is that from the olden days? I remember when there was partners or something, you wanted to make sure that nothing was written out of the account that you didn't know about. You'd have to have two signatures on a check.
You can set it up either way.
Oh, you can? Okay. So I'm wondering if that would help, because, the bottom line to all this, you got to get an attorney. You have, and it has to be someone that you can trust, knows this is all you do.
Right.
This, you don't have a shingle hanging that you do criminal law, you do family law. You strictly do estate planning.
And so much of it's electronic these days, anyways. Who writes checks? They have online access. They're going to go pay the bills that way too.
It comes up so much about revocable living trust. Tell everybody what that is and why it's important or not important.
The purpose of a revocable living trust is mainly to avoid probate and guardianship.
Which could get really expensive.
Right. So you hear problems. There's problems with probate. That if you own property when you die in your own name, then it has to be probated. You have to go to court, have a personal representative appointed, and administer the estate under the jurisdiction of the court. If you set up a revocable trust and before you die you transfer all your property into the trust and you retitle all your assets in the name of the trust, then when you pass away, you don't own the property, the trust owns the property. And because the trust owns the property, there's no probate necessary. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no work at all. You still have to gather the assets. You still have to pay off the creditors if there are any. You still have to follow the wishes. It's just that it doesn't have the court involvement that a probate does.
I know what we're going to do next month. What we're going to do. I want you next month. We're going to talk about red flags. So a lot of people already do have an attorney. They've put their will together. But I want you to talk about red flags, things to look for, because people aren't even educated when it comes to this. And then sometimes it's too late by the time they do get educated. So I want to spend at least the first 15 minutes talking about red flags, things that people should look for, things that people should ask, because you're just like a world full of knowledge.
Right.
And I think we'll do that the next show. Listen, we love having you on the show.
Oh, I love coming
I'm going to give everybody you do it for me. Do my job.
Sure.
Give everybody your phone number and your website address.
Our phone number is 954-990-0896. And our website is Ginsberg with an E, Ginsberg, Schulman, Schulman.com. There's no C in Schulman.
And you got several offices.
Yeah, our main office is in downtown Fort Lauderdale in Los Olas. We also see clients in Boca Raton on Glades Road.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thanks for coming. I love having you on.
I like it. Thank you very much.
We got our first phone call today, and now it's going to even start building up. The name of the firm is Ginsberg and Schulman, 954-990-0896. We will see you next Thursday from 5 to 6 with more Ask the Experts. Have a good week. Peace and love. We're gone.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show with Steve-O and Renee. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.